Hello and welcome. I'm Sumera Abdi and you're watching Money, Money, Money. We earn, we save, invest and spend all of this money and use to create what we call an estate. Your estate is comprised of everything that you own, be it your car, home, your other real estate, checking and savings accounts, your investments, your life insurance, furniture, personal possessions. No matter how large or how modest, everyone has an estate and something in common: we cannot take it with us. So what do? We need to plan for our estate. Feroze Azeez of Anand Rathi Wealth Management is going to be our guide on estate planning, and also with us we have Shailendra Kinda as well as Parul and Sunil Paburi. Thanks so much to all of you for coming to our studios. But before we get started and ask Feroze for his advice, I want to ask if all of you have a will.
Yes, I made will all of suddenly.
Okay. What about you, sir?
Nothing, not yet.
Not yet? What about you, Shailendra?
I think I'm too young to make a will at this point of time.
Oh, Feroze. So we have actually three different sets of opinions. One person who has a will, one who doesn't, and someone who's perhaps thinks he has time to go. I do too. I'm, on it with you. But Feroze, what exactly does a person need to consider when they make a will, and who can make it? I mean, should I be making a will?
I think it's got nothing to do with age. Anybody who has assets or even liabilities or dependents need to make a will, right? Because if you have assets, you need to make sure somebody manages them to take care of your goals, which might have not got fulfilled.
Yeah, well, right now the only will I have is willpower. But anyway, I believe you have a question, sir.
Yeah, regarding the real estate planning, can you suggest me any facets so that my real estate planning is taken care of?
Real estate is a part of your assets, right? So an estate plan is way more holistic. It's got all assets, like Sumera just mentioned. The saving account balance is also an estate. Anything you own is an estate. What are the facets you need to take care of? Now, for example, if I may ask, you have children, I'm sure. So what's the age of your children?
One is 27, one is 22.
27, 22. So your children are not minors, they're majors. So somebody who's trying to deal with children who are minors, his strategy for estate planning has to be dramatically different than somebody who has major kids, right? Both you and your spouse are both Indian residents?
Yeah.
And your real estate assets, are they located in Mumbai or where is it? Because the laws of the land are very different inside India itself. So your estate planning will also depend on where your immovable property is actually held.
In Bombay.
In Bombay. So for somebody like you, I would say that if you have major children who are not minors anymore, you need to first create a will. Okay, creating a will should more or less suffice. You will not maybe require a private trust, which is another method of creating an estate plan. Will should suffice with whatever information currently I have. So when you create a will, you also need to keep one thing in mind. You need to keep an executor, which is the most important part of the will. In the sense, the executor is that person who in case of eventuality takes the will and makes sure that the will is executed to perfection, okay, and does all the legal involvement of something called the probate, which makes sure that the court gives the right orders and passes the orders.
It is a registration in will, it is important, or it is on plain paper, suppose in emergency. So what is the validity of will?
First question, no, it does not have to be on a stamp paper. It can be on a plain sheet of paper with two witnesses. Registration is also not mandatory, but it's always very good to register your will. Almost 50-60% of the wills in the country are contested by people who are beneficiaries to that will. So if you want to reduce the probability of your will getting contested in the future, you're better off registering it, because the cost of registration, unlike you registering a property, is very low. The witnesses need not be somebody who is your blood relative. They could be anybody. Any human can be your witness. And lastly, make sure that any of them who are the beneficiaries of the will never sign as a witness. That can be contested and they might lose their share if they are the witness and also the beneficiary of the will.
So how frequently can a will be made, and how frequently can it be changed?
The frequency of modification can be as high as you choose to be, but at least a yearly review of a will is and an amendment is something which is very critical, and that's called codicil, is a concept which is a technical term for a modification of a will, where you revise it to the new assets and liabilities addition, and your will can also change due to liking towards a new person which has emerged, and you might want to give away a portion of your assets to him or her.
Because I heard about, I don't know much about the will, but I've heard about that there are two kind of will. One is leaving and one is last will. So request if you could elaborate more on that for my understanding.
Okay, a will, by virtue of how it operates, comes into life when there is the person who created the will is no more. It comes to life when the person who created it is dead. But there's also another that's called the last will, okay, which is generally used to disperse all your assets to the people whom you wanted it to be distributed to. But the living will is something where if I create a living will, I can also dictate how, in case of critical illness, should somebody treat my body, is what is called a living will. For example, I can choose to say that I want to have a ventilator support if I'm not capable of speaking myself and making my choice, and that's called the living will.
Can I ensure that my beneficiaries get the right division as per my will by my executors?
Right. See, an executor is a person whom you trust. Okay, so the person who is the executor makes sure is liable to make sure that he distributes it on the right proportion. But what happens is there is also the court's involvement which is required, which is called the probate. We touched upon it very briefly. Probate is a concept in which the court certifies that it's the last will, and this division it happens under the supervision of a probate court. So that more or less ensures the distribution.
I heard about probate is important in metropolitan city and not in small town so what is about probate and how it is important?
See, probate, there are like Kolkata, Chennai, Mumbai have a mandatory probate. Okay, now for example, if the person who has actually written the will is a Parsi or a Christian, okay, and irrespective of whichever location he has his immovable property, probate is mandatory. So probate depends not just on where the property is located, but also depends on the religion or the beliefs of the person who is actually the will writer.
What about you? Have you made your will, Feroze?
Yes, I have made my will, otherwise I don't qualify to comment on this.
Yeah, I know. I just shouldn't have asked you. I should have just assumed it. But anyway, it's time for us to take a very quick break. We'll come back in a bit. On the other side, we're not done yet. Up next, we're going to talk about how you can go about making a private trust. Stay with us. We'll be back in a bit. Welcome back. You're watching Money, Money, Money. We've been discussing estate planning with Feroze Azeez, and we also have with us Shailendra Kinda as well as Parul and Sunil Pabari. Shailendra, you've been really quiet. You said earlier that you were too young to be making a will. Why is that?
Samira, I'm just 40 at this point of time, and I'm salaried, and I think I have a long way to go, another 20-25 years of service. And the thing is that I have a loan of 70 lakhs, and discussing my financial this thing, and life insurance policy of 1.5 crore, and have investment of around 13 lakhs into PPF and the equity mutual funds, make a SIP of around 20,000 per month into this thing. So do you think I need to create will at this point of time, or need to? I really don't know what is private trust. So if you could tell me what is a private trust first of all.
Can I also know, do you have children? How old are they?
I have 2 children, son age 8 and the daughter age 4.
Very good. So I'm sure you must be making investments for their education and stuff. You have some goals in mind, I'm sure, when you're making some investments.
Yeah, I have. I want to, this thing, aim for their education, marriage, and my retirement, but of course.
Okay. So this is a classic case where the person is duped to believe that he does not have too much asset, he has not achieved financial independence, his goals are yet to be met, so there's no question of surplus assets. So why do I need estate planning? I'm falling short of meeting my goals. I'm still in the accumulation phase. To my mind, here a private trust is very, very critical, because when you're not around, in case of eventuality, it's not just your assets which need to be taken care of, your liabilities, your dependents need to be taken care of. So what happens is, in spite of you not meeting financial independence, your private trust would be the classic solution for you. Why would it be? See, now what happens is, in case of eventuality, your kids are minors. They would not be able to take care of your assets and liabilities. Now, for example, you have an insurance cover. How much is your insurance cover, Shailendra?
1.5 crore.
1.5 crores. Now this kind of money, there has to be a guardian. Now this money has to go towards meeting your goals, your child's education, professional education, marriage, and any other further goal. So who would take care of this 1.5 crores? Where would this money go? Who will ensure that this is not utilized somewhere else other than where your requirements were if you were around? So the person who would take care of it would be a trustee in the private trust.
So Feroze, how efficient is this mechanism of the private trust?
It's a very, very efficient method. In fact, people debate that it's significantly more efficient than a will, because the probability of a private trust getting contested is far lower than a will getting contested. So basically a private trust is nothing but a legal entity which will hold your assets and seamlessly transfer your assets. So it's a very, very efficient method of transferring assets.
What all I should consider and what should I take care or decide when I'm creating a trust? What are things which need to be taken care of?
So the critical decisions are of course of the trustee, of whom do you appoint as a trustee. There are also corporates who take this responsibility, saying that we will be a trustee for a fee. Okay, there are quite a few trustees in this country who are ready to do that on a fee. That's one decision you need to take. The other decision which you need to take is who are going to be the beneficiaries of these assets and what is the proportion in which they will be a beneficiary. There's also a trust has a lifespan. You can decide that, see, now in your case the kids are 4 and 8. You would not want them to get these assets at a very young age. So you could probably, I would suggest you keep a life of the trust as 20 years. So by then your kids would be 24 and 28. They will be mature enough to manage the financial matters. So time span is one. The trustee is one. The allocation between your loved ones is another key decision which you need to take in case when you're creating a trust.
Okay, Feroze, can I change my trustee, or can I take one more than one trustee? Or if suppose I have problem with same trust, so can I make close that trust, and can I get my money back?
So the key difference between a will and a trust is, in a will you just mention, saying that in my absence this is what should happen. In a trust there's actually a physical movement of your assets. You need to understand that there is one who's a trustee in a trust, there's a beneficiary and a settler. These are the three most important people in a private trust. A settler is the person who actually funds the trust, who puts his assets in it, is generally the trust settler. The trustee is the person who manages those assets, and the beneficiary is the person who's going to take benefit of those assets. So you have these three people. A settler can himself be the trustee in his presence, and he can nominate one of his friends, saying that if in my absence you become the trustee. Now coming to your question of whether I will be able to take back my assets, there are two types of private trust. One is called a revocable private trust, and there's something called the irrevocable private trust. A revocable private trust is the one where you put in your money and you can take back your money at your whims and fancy. You can close your trust and take the money. But in irrevocable trust, you've given away your right to revoke that trust. So you will never be able to lay your hands on the assets which went into a irrevocable trust.
Other question I have in my mind, whether my assets will be attached if in case of any liability which arises due to my other activity. So my assets will be attached?
Okay, so if I understand you right, you're saying that if I have maybe some liability arising on Shailendra Kinder, and the assets have moved out of your hands into the trust's hands,
yes, exactly.
The liability extrapolate to the trust.
Yes.
In an irrevocable trust, the answer is no. So what does that mean is, if you have taken a loan and you've been a guarantor to somebody's loan, and if that loan goes sour, these assets which you've moved to the trust can never be taken by the bank. So it creates a safety net for your loved ones, and that can never be attached. So that's one very big advantage of a private trust, which is an irrevocable crime, that there is complete ring fencing of those assets, and they can never be taken away by anybody, and those are earmarked for your loved ones.
Because do I need to still create a will if I've created a trust for my kids?
Yes and no. Okay, it depends on how much of significance you're going to give to your trust. If your trust is a peripheral instrument which you've created, then yes. But if you're going to take that trust as your core of estate planning, then that should suffice and you will not need a will.
Well, on that note, Shailendra, I hope all your questions have been answered. All the best with planning for your future and for your kids as well. Parul and Sunil, thanks so much for coming down to our studio. We hope that we've been of some help to you at least. But Feroze, we hope you'll stay back with us a little bit longer and indulge us just a little bit more. But that was all that you ever needed to know about estate planning. But for those of us who are still building our corpus, here's what you need to know about investing in mutual funds. It's not just about equities. Did you know that there are various kinds of funds like income funds which invest in debt instruments and are considered low risk and stable income? Then there are balanced funds, which are a mix of both equity and debt funds, providing both growth and stability. Money market schemes promise high liquidity, preservation of capital and a moderate income. These schemes generally invest in safer short-term instruments such as treasury bills or certificates of deposit. And finally, the tax saving schemes are favorite, which offer tax rebates for contributions made to any equity-linked savings schemes, or ELSS, are eligible for rebate. On that note, we'll take a very quick break. Up next is our viewer call-in segment, Can I Afford It? Welcome back. You're watching Money, Money, Money. It's time now for Mythbusters. So let me hand it over to Manasvi Galani.
What better than a plan that gives you a combination of both investment and insurance? Some of you may have guessed it right. We're talking about unit-linked insurance plans today, which is a single integrated plan where a part of the premium paid is utilized to provide insurance cover to the policyholder, while the remaining is invested in various debt and equity schemes. But here's what you need to know. If you thought that ULIP investments are most risky, but in fact they offer you a transparent approach with several investment choices. They may not offer you guaranteed returns as they are market linked, but they do have a score in terms of tax advantages and net yield. So as per the new policy as well, ULIP investments are both transparent and investor friendly. Secondly, if you thought ULIPs were prone to mis-selling, the fact is that the financial implications are borne by the distributor and the insurance company. And as per the new ULIP guidelines, if a customer fails to pay any premium, the premiums paid by far by them are transferred to a discontinuance fund, and they are paid back to the customer at the end of the term with a guaranteed return. So this in fact minimizes the scope of mis-selling. Lastly, if you thought that ULIPs work in tandem with market mood and you will be able to exit during the downside, here's what you need to know. ULIPs have a lock-in period of 5 consecutive years from the date of commencement. So read the fine print well and take an informed investment decision.
All right, Manasvi, thanks so much for that. Now it's on to Can I Afford It? If you're looking for a bit of extravagance in your life, well, we're the people to call, and our expert will tell you if you can afford it or not. First up, Shelly Shah calls us from Udaipur. Hi, Shelly. What are you looking to buy?
Hi, I'm looking to buy a professional camera, the Canon 400D, as well as a block lens, which together cost about 50,000. I'm 29 years old and I earn about 1.25 lakhs per month. My expenses are about 35,000 per month and I pay about 40,000 as EMI for my house every month. I have insurance as well as about 2 lakhs in my bank FD.
Okay, so Shelly, how are you planning to pay for this camera?
So I'm planning to dip into my savings actually.
Okay. Feroze, do you think we can give her an approval?
In my opinion, yes. Why? Because if you're buying yourself a camera and if that's a hobby, that automatically will keep you occupied, that your expense somewhere else would reduce because you're so occupied.
All right, Shelly, congratulations. You have an approval from Feroze and happy clicking. Up next, Zoya Ahmed calls us from Bangalore. Hi, Zoya. What's your question?
Hi, Sumera. Zoya this side. My husband and I have recently shifted into a new home which has virtually wiped out our savings. But still, we need to do up the house a little bit. We actually don't need to worry about insurance as we are insured by our employers and we don't have any responsibilities currently. Together, our joint income is about 1.5 lakhs and monthly expenses stand at 45,000. EMI is again another 25,000. My question is, can we afford to decorate our house?
Well, first up, congratulations on your new house. But tell us, how much money are you looking to spend and how will you pay for it?
I'm looking at spending about 2.5 lakhs over a period of 3 months, some of which we'll pay from our salary and some of the furniture and upholstery we'll buy using a credit card.
Okay, Feroze, there's that word credit card again. Can we give her an approval?
To my mind, not 2.5 lakhs. I think you've already gone out of pocket and you've stretched yourself to buy yourself a home. I think you should bring it down to 1.5 lakh. Definitely avoid that portion which was supposed to be borrowed. Congratulations that you have a new home, but you would definitely be very tempted to go out of pocket and spend about 2.5 lakhs. I would suggest that you need to trim it down a little. About 1.5 lakh is the maximum I would spend if I was you.
All right, Zoya, so you've got an approval, but you need to trim your budget a little bit. Up next, Sham Zaveri has written to us from Mumbai. He says he's looking to throw a surprise party for his girlfriend, so I guess which is why he was too shy to call in. But he says he earns about 80,000, of which his monthly expenses account for about 30,000. He has no responsibilities as of now. He's only 26 years old, so he wants to know, Feroze, if he can afford to spend about 1 lakh to throw a surprise party for his girlfriend.
You can afford to do it, but I think you should not. You should rather think about savings, and you should not do this party, to my mind. You would rather.
If you were 26, is this the advice you would have given yourself?
I wouldn't have, is why I'm giving him the advice now.
Well, on that note, Feroze, thanks so much for joining in. Thanks very much. We had a great time with you. And here's where we need to wrap up, viewers. Do remember to keep writing to us. Email us at moneymoneymoney@network18online.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Write to CNBC TV 18 News. Use the hashtag money. We'll have to wrap up over here. But as we do, I remember this quote from Warren Buffett. He says, rule number 1 is never lose your money. And rule number 2 is never forget rule number 1.